They brought a fucking bulldozer to my pasture. Not a letter. Not a phone call. A goddamn bulldozer. And if I hadn't been home that morning, they would have carved up land that's been in my family since before half these HOA clowns knew how to spell Montana. That's what they do. They don't knock. They don't ask. They move the fence, file the fake paperwork, and hope you're too tired to fight back. This wasn't just about Karen. This was a warning if they can do it to me. A retired vet with cameras, documents, and grit. They'll damn sure try it on someone quieter. And that's why I'm telling these stories, because some of y'all out there, you've seen this too, haven't you? Maybe not a bulldozer. Maybe it was a fine or a flyer, or some slick bastard trying to redraw your property line while you were on vacation. Well, don't keep it to yourself. Drop your story in the comments. Let them know we see them. This is the HOA Karen Files, where fake authority meets real resistance. Hit that subscribe button. Share this shit with anyone you know dealing with HOA hell. And next time they come for your land, don't just get mad. Get ready. I wasn't supposed to be home till Sunday. Hell, I was supposed to be knee-deep in the Missouri River with a cold beer in one hand and a fly rod in the other. But something about Friday afternoon just felt wrong. The sky over Helena turned a sick kind of yellow. The fish weren't biting. My mind kept drifting back to the ranch. You spend enough time with a piece of land, it starts talking to you. Sometimes in whispers. Sometimes it screams. That day, it was damn near hollering. So I packed up the cooler, tossed the gear in the back of my '03 Chevy Silverado faded red, busted left tail light, and started the 3-hour drive back to Willow Creek. Didn't even say goodbye to the boys. Just muttered something's off and peeled out of the dirt lot like the devil was chasing me. I pulled up just past 7. Sun low, air sharp. The kind that makes you feel the bones in your chest when you breathe too deep. I was about 50 yards from the south pasture when I saw him. 3 figures. One in that goddamn powder blue vest. The other's a couple of meatheads in work boots standing around my fence line with gloves on and tools in hand. And just like that, my pulse went from 0 to oh hell no. The fence they were messing with. That's the original line. Put in by my dad in '89, the summer after Grandma died. He and I laid every damn post by hand, sweating through shirts and blisters with nothing but determination and an old post hole digger we borrowed from Carl Whitaker down the road. It ain't just wire and wood. It's blood. It's memory. It's the line where my family said, "Here, this is ours." And now someone was tugging on it like it was a loose thread on a thrift store jacket. I slammed the truck door so hard the glove box popped open. "Hey," I barked, already halfway across the gravel. "What in God's name are you doing on my property?" Karen didn't even flinch. She turned around, slow, smug as a church lady with a winning bingo card, and smiled like she was selling Girl Scout cookies instead of stealing land. "Daniel," she said, that voice of hers all syrup and static. "You weren't supposed to be back until Sunday? You want to explain what the fuck's going on here?" I growled, pointing at the 2 goons, one of whom was yanking a fence post out like he was harvesting carrots. "Oh, don't be dramatic," she said, brushing dirt off her sleeve. "We're just making a correction. The HOA had a survey done last month, and it looks like your line's a few feet off." I blinked. "The HOA?" I repeated. "Karen, this ain't HOA land. Never has been. I'm not in your jurisdiction." Hell, I've got the damn plat map framed in my office. She gave me a look like I just farted in church. "Well, the community guidelines have expanded." She said, "Guidelines aren't law." I snapped, "And you're trespassing." That's when she pulled the stunt. Pulled her phone from that big leather purse and punched 3 numbers without missing a beat. 911, she said. Real loud, like she wanted everyone, including the cows in the distance, to hear. "Yes, I'm on Ranch Road 8. A man's become aggressive. He's yelling. He's got something in his hand. I feel unsafe." I looked down. What I had in my hand was a work glove, no joke. A damn work glove I pulled from my truck seat without thinking. "You've got to be shitting me," I muttered, staring at her. But she wasn't looking at me. She turned her back and paced toward the open tailgate of her Lexus RX, still narrating like some bad true crime podcast. "He looks unstable. Yes, I'd like someone dispatched right away. This has happened before." She was building the scene, laying the script, a performance, plain and simple. Like this was her land, and I was the madman who'd wandered in off the range. But I wasn't going to give her what she wanted. No yelling, no shoving, no aggressive male energy she could twist into a lawsuit. I pulled out my phone, flipped the camera on, and started recording. "Karen Morgan, president of Willow Creek HOA." I said loud and clear. "Currently trespassing on private land and ordering unauthorized removal of boundary markers installed legally in 1989. You are being filmed." She turned, eyes narrow. "You're paranoid," she hissed. "No," I said, "I'm prepared." 5 minutes later, Sheriff's Deputy Hanson rolled up in his Ford Explorer. Lights on, but no siren. Young guy, good head on his shoulders. He stepped out slow, hand near his belt, but not on it. "Evening," he said. "Everyone all right here? She's trespassing." I said flat. He threatened me. Karen jumped in. "I got video," I said, holding out my phone. Hanson took it, gave it a look. Karen kept on talking, but I wasn't listening anymore. I was looking down at the post that had just been pulled. Old cedar, split at the base, stained dark from decades of rain and snow and blood mine and Dad's both, like a tooth ripped from a jaw that never got to bite back. That's when it hit me this wasn't about a few inches of land. This was about erasure. They weren't just pulling fence. They were trying to pull history, trying to dig up memory, crack it apart, repack it with mulch and HOA-approved rose bushes, and pretend none of us were ever here. And the worst part, Karen wasn't done. Not even close. Because snakes don't leave when you chase them off. They circle back. It started small. That's the part that pisses me off the most. After the fence line fiasco, I figured Karen would lay low for a bit. Maybe throw a tantrum in a group chat or write a passive-aggressive newsletter for the HOA board. Something petty. What I didn't expect was the envelope. Thick. Cream-colored. Glossy-ass logo of Willow Creek Homeowners Association. Right there on the front like it meant something. The kind of letter that smells like printer toner and entitlement. Inside notice of property line ambiguity and invitation to voluntary compliance inspection. That was the headline. Under it came a bunch of legal-sounding nonsense about boundary integrity, community visual harmony, and transitional expansion. Somewhere in the third paragraph, it said they'd like to schedule a walkthrough of my land to ensure compatibility with surrounding lot values. Compatible. As if this land, passed down from my father and soaked in 3 decades of sweat, firewood smoke, and goat shit, needed to be compatible with Karen's lawn gnomes and curb appeal standards. I crumpled the letter and tossed it in the burn barrel. I didn't even light it, just left it there. Like a dead rat someone dropped on the porch. A warning, but also an insult. Then came the second one. This time, it wasn't just a letter. It was a certified envelope, signed by someone named Marissa DuPont, Community Legal Liaison. Same HOA logo, different tone. This one wasn't an invitation. It was a notification of proposed land reassessment attached with a copy of some half-ass map that conveniently redrew my southern fence line by 11 goddamn feet. No signature from the county, just HOA letterhead. But that didn't stop them from acting like it was gospel. Next came the HOA meeting. I didn't attend. Hell, I wasn't even invited. But my neighbor Sam, bless his old stubborn heart, snuck in and gave me the play-by-play afterward. Apparently. Karen stood up in front of a room full of khaki pants and coleslaw breath and gave a whole slideshow presentation titled The Hidden Risk of Non-Compliant Neighbors. Guess whose slide number 4 was a grainy photo of me hauling firewood, cropped just right to make me look like I was yelling at a chicken. She painted you as unstable, Sam told me, sitting on my porch swing with a thermos of his bitter-ass cowboy coffee. Said you were aggressive, that you threatened her during the survey. I stared out at the field, fists clenched, and nobody called bullshit couple folks looked uneasy, but most of them clapped. Clapped. For a woman who tried to steal my land with a fucking clipboard and some duct tape? Then came the signs. Big-ass metal stakes hammered into the gravel shoulder just outside my drive. Not on my land, but right on the edge close enough to feel like a breath on the back of my neck. One read, Willow Creek Expansion Phase 2. Pending approval. Another community beautification project. Future Trail Access Point Trail. They wanted to run a trail through the back of my pasture, right past my goat pen. The same goat pen Karen once called a sanitation risk. The message was clear. They were coming, 1 inch at a time. Not with bulldozers, with paperwork. The worst part was watching people shift. I noticed it first at the gas station in town. Used to be, folks would nod, wave, shoot the shit about fence wire or tractor parts. But now I got tight-lipped nods, eyes that slid away, like I'd grown a third arm or joined a cult. Then came the whispers. A buddy of mine from the feed store told me Karen had circulated a private email among HOA members titled, What Do We Really Know About Daniel Rose? It listed everything from my military service to the fact that I hadn't updated my mailbox in 10 years. She called you a free radical, my buddy told me, trying not to laugh. Hell, I said, I'll put that on my gravestone. But it wasn't funny. It stopped being funny the morning I found a fake violation notice duct taped to my workshop door, printed on the same glossy paper as her damn envelopes. Unauthorized structure encroaching on HOA easement. Immediate remediation recommended. Easement. On my shop, that building's been standing since 1993. It used to be my dad's. Smells like cedar shavings and oil rags. I just finished restoring a rocking chair in there the week before. One Marlene's grandfather carved in 1947. They wanted me to tear it down because it didn't match the HOA exterior style guide. I damn near tore the paper in half with my bare hands. So I did what I had to do. I went into town, walked into the dusty-ass county records office and slapped my deed on the counter. Need to confirm the perimeter of parcel 721A? I said. The guy behind the desk squinted at me over his glasses. That's the Rodas property. Right. Damn right it is. He pulled up the records, printed me a copy of the official boundary map, stamped and certified. Still the same. Same lines, same measurements, same 47 fence posts. Just like Dad laid them. I didn't say anything to Karen. Didn't knock on her door or drop a note in her stupid little HOA mailbox. I let her think whatever the hell she wanted. But that night, I installed 2 more cameras. One watching the back gate. One pointed straight at the new trail sign they'd hammered into the dirt. And I waited. Because I knew what was coming. People like Karen don't stop when you ignore them. They think silence is permission. 2 nights later, I caught movement on the camera. Midnight. Karen's nephew Kyle Big Guy. Buzz cut. Cargo shorts creeping along the edge of my fence line with a spray can in one hand and a tape measure in the other. Tagging my posts. Marking them. Like he was staking out a construction site. I saved the footage. Called Sam. Called my lawyer. Emailed it to myself twice and backed it up to a thumb drive. Because this wasn't just a feud anymore. This was a goddamn siege. And I wasn't about to be the next rancher who got quietly erased for the sake of some HOA's version of utopia. Not while my name was still on the deed. Not while I still had breath in my lungs. There's a sound fences make when they give way. It's not loud, well, not like a gunshot. More like a pop and a sigh. Wood cracking, wire stretching, the kind of sound that wakes up something primal in your gut if you've ever owned land. Loved it, and tried to keep it safe. I heard that sound at 2:14 a.m. I was halfway through a glass of rye on the porch. Sky clear, stars out, coyotes quiet. A peaceful night, that kind of heavy Montana silence that makes you believe in things bigger than yourself. Then, the pop. The sigh, a rustle where there shouldn't be one. I grabbed the shotgun, switched on the floodlight by the barn, and stepped into my boots without socks. The south fence. Same goddamn stretch they'd been poking at for weeks. I followed the light. Slow, quiet. The fence post was down. Top rail cracked clean in two. The wire slack like a dropped violin string, and the gate propped open with a rock, not kicked open. Propped deliberately? Someone wanted it that way. I scanned with the flashlight, tracks in the dirt. Big ones. Boot prints with zigzag soles like you'd find at a Home Depot clearance rack. And then I saw it. A laminated sign staked into the ground next to the busted post. Private land reclaimed by Willow Creek. HOA trail installation in progress. I didn't say anything. Didn't cuss. Didn't shout. I just stood there for a long while, staring at that sign like it was a corpse I didn't know how to bury. Later that morning, Sam showed up in his flannel and boots, holding a mug that said, "Coffee is for closers." He squinted at the post, then at me. "This ain't posturing anymore." He said, "This is a message." "Yeah," I said, "but now it's my turn to write one." That same day, I drove into town. Not to the sheriff. Not yet. I went to the hardware store, bought trail cameras, new padlocks, 2 solar-powered motion lights, a pack of steel fence brackets, and enough rebar to anchor a small bridge. On the way back, I took a detour. Willow Creek HOA headquarters sat at the end of Meadowlark Drive white building. Fancy sign, plastic flowers out front, looked like a dentist's office that gave out citations instead of cleanings. Karen's Lexus wasn't in the lot, but Kyle's shitty Dodge Ram was. I didn't go inside, just parked across the street, killed the engine, and sat there. I wanted to know what kind of people show up to a place like this on a Thursday morning. A woman in yoga pants and pearls, a man in slacks and sandals, another woman with a stroller, and a dog in it. People who probably couldn't tell the difference between chicken wire and barbed, who'd never smelled manure that wasn't bagged and sold as organic garden booster. These were Karen's people, and she was weaponizing them. 2 nights later, it got worse. I just turned in, lights off, generator humming when I heard tires on gravel. Not fast, slow, creeping. I grabbed my phone and pulled up the live camera feed from the south pasture. There they were. 3 figures. One holding what looked like a clipboard, another with a headlamp, and the third holding a can of orange spray paint. They were marking lines across my goddamn property, not just near the fence anymore, 20 feet in. I hit record, snapped screenshots, texted Sam, then I called the sheriff. This time, I wasn't playing polite. Deputy Hanson came out the next morning. He stood next to me while I showed him the footage. "This enough?" I asked, and he nodded slowly. "It's enough to start something." "Good," I said. "Because they already did." By that weekend, Karen had filed a formal complaint against me for obstruction of community development. Claimed I'd been intimidating volunteers and disrupting HOA-approved activities. She attached a fake photo of me standing next to the broken fence with a shotgun across my back, like I was in Red Dead Redemption. It didn't matter that I'd never aimed it at anyone. It didn't matter that the shotgun wasn't even loaded. The image was all she needed. That same day, a story popped up on the HOA's next-door page. Rancher refuses to cooperate. Threatens residents with firearm signed concerned citizen. Yeah, okay, Karen. So I went on the offensive, I didn't just post my footage online, I cut a full video. Told the whole story. From the first flyer on my gate to the sign staked into my soil. I laid out the maps, the legal documents, the photos. I named names, I kept it steady, calm, no yelling. Titled it How an HOA Tried to Steal My Land, a warning to property owners, uploaded it to YouTube, Facebook, Reddit, and sent it to 2 local news stations. And then I waited. By Monday, it had over 25,000 views. By Tuesday, I had 2 voicemails from HOA members who wanted to talk privately. By Wednesday, the county called. They'd received complaints and footage. And now the zoning board wanted to review the matter officially. Karen had poked the bear too many times. Now the bear had internet access. Still, I didn't feel safe. Because people like Karen don't just fold when they're wrong. They dig in, they smear, they escalate. And that's exactly what happened next. One of my goats got loose. Nothing unusual at first. Goats are escape artists. But this one, its pen was cut open. Deliberately. Wire clipped. Gate latch jammed with a stick. Later that day, I found another laminated sign nailed to the fence. Non-compliant structures will be subject to community correction. That was it. I went back inside, sat down at the kitchen table, poured myself 2 fingers of whiskey, no ice. Then I opened a folder I hadn't touched since Marlene and I bought the place, the one labeled litigation. It was time. I'd had enough. I mean it. No more of this file a complaint shit. No more waiting for some deputy to take notes and say we'll follow up. Karen and her little HOA cult had been screwing with me for weeks, tearing up my fence, letting out my goats, smearing my name like I was some kind of backwoods lunatic. So I did what I should have done 3 weeks ago. I went to war. And I brought receipts. First, I printed every goddamn photo. I had the busted fence, the fake HOA signs, Kyle spray painting my land like it was his goddamn driveway. I even pulled up video clips from the trail cams one with Karen's Lexus parked on my property, trunk open, and another where Kyle bent over with bolt cutters like he was fixing a fucking garden gate. I laid it all out on my dining room table like a crime scene board. Marlene always hated that table, said it was too ugly, too square, but it made a hell of a war desk. Then I called my lawyer. Dan Kessler, old, cranky, half-deaf, and meaner than a rattlesnake in a mailbox. Just the guy you want when the law's dragging its feet. He drove out that afternoon in a rusted-out Ford Crown Vic, tie half-tucked, cigar in his teeth. He walked in, looked at the evidence, took 1 sip of my coffee and said, "Jesus Christ, I'm Daniel. They're trying to fuck you sideways." "Welcome to Willow Creek," I said. Dan drafted the first letter that night, a cease and desist directed at the HOA board and Karen specifically. Legal terms. But the gist was simple. Back the hell off or we sue your ass into the next county. We sent copies to Nadinik. The HOA board, Karen's personal address, the county zoning office, and just for fun, the local newspaper. Then Dan turned to me and said, "All right, cowboy, you want to spook 'em?" "Damn right," I said. We spent the next 48 hours putting together a media package, photos, videos, maps, a timeline of harassment. Even the goats made the cut. I had 1 photo of Daisy, my laziest, dumbest goat, trotting out of an open gate with the fake HOA sign behind her. It was funny as hell. Also, legally damning. I uploaded the video under a new title, How My HOA Neighbor Tried to Steal My Land. Here's the fucking proof. No edits, no bleeping, just me, a camera, and the goddamn truth. I posted it everywhere. YouTube, Reddit, Facebook, Twitter, for the 3 people in town who still use that mess. And it took off. People love a good David versus Goliath story, especially when Goliath wears yoga pants and carries a clipboard. Within 24 hours, the video had 60,000 views. Local news called. So did a podcaster from Billings who wanted an interview. I said yes. I wanted the world to know what kind of psycho hides behind an HOA badge and tries to rezone a man's land out from under him. Karen, of course, lost her goddamn mind. She showed up at the end of my driveway 2 mornings later, standing next to her Lexus like she was summoning demons. "You need to take that video down," she barked. "You need to get off my fucking gravel," I barked back. "I'm filing a defamation suit." "Do it. Discovery's a bitch." She stood there, stunned, then turned, got back in her car, and spun out like a teenager late for cheer practice. Next day, I get served. Yep. Official-looking envelope. Karen had actually filed a civil suit defamation, obstruction, and community harassment. I laughed so hard I dropped my wrench in a bucket of goat shit. She wanted a Warren Court fine. I had footage, receipts, and a lawyer who once sued the county for paving over a turtle nest. Sam came by that evening, sat on my porch, and grunted like he didn't want to talk, which meant he had something big to say. "You heard the latest nope? She's trying to buy the field behind you." From Johnson's widow. I blinked. That's not HOA land. She's not buying it for the HOA. She's buying it for herself. That one hit different. Because if she owned the lot behind mine, she could try to claim access rights, build a trail, maybe even argue community corridor bullshit. "She's coming at you from behind," Sam muttered. "Like a fucking snake." I didn't say anything. I just stared out at the fence line, the same one I rebuilt last week with rebar and concrete. Like I was prepping for a siege, because I was... 3 days before the hearing, someone torched my mailbox. I'm not joking. Burnt to a crisp. Post still smoking. Sheriff came out, took photos. Said hard to prove who did it. Yeah, no shit. But I knew. And I made sure the sheriff saw the trail cam footage I'd placed on the mailbox itself, the blurry outline of Kyle's dumbass cargo shorts, and the same Zippo lighter he always flicked at HOA meetings. The sheriff shook his head. "They're not even subtle anymore." "Nope," I said. "But I am." Because I had one more card to play. A drone. Yeah, one of those cheap Amazon ones that looks like a toy but flies like a hawk on meth. I flew it 2 nights before the hearing up and over Karen's backyard, purely for property monitoring, and of course. Guess what I saw? A brand new roll of orange fencing stacked behind her shed, a bundle of stakes, a contractor's permit with the name Willow Creek Community Pathway, Phase 2. The permit was fake. It was dated before the zoning board ever met. Bitch was forging paperwork. I took pictures. By the time the court date rolled around, I had a binder thick as a truck tire. My lawyer showed up in boots and a bolo tie. Karen showed up in beige heels and a blouse so tight it looked like it was lying. We sat. The judge walked in, and I swear I didn't smile once, not even when the judge looked at Karen's fake permit and said, "Ma'am, this appears to be falsified." Karen's face went pale, then red, then that twitchy little thing she does when she's cornered. I didn't even have to speak. The judge dismissed her case in 10 minutes, told her she was lucky criminal charges hadn't been filed yet. That was coming next. When we stepped outside, press was waiting. Local news. Some blogger with a selfie stick. A woman with purple hair who ran a channel called HOA Karen Files. I gave one statement. Don't fuck with ranchers. We've got time, cameras, and no HOA meetings to attend. The video went viral by the end of the week. Karen disappeared from public life. The HOA board voted to remove her pending investigation. And I replaced the mailbox. With steel? Welded and bolted into a concrete base? Let's see them burn that one down. I should have known she'd try something. People like Karen don't slink off into the dark when they lose. They don't lick their wounds. They plot, scheme, wait for the next opening. And sure as hell, 5 days after her court case blew up like a wet cow turd in July, She struck again. Not with lawyers, not with flyers, but with bulldozers. It was 6:42 a.m. when I heard it. That low, growling rumble, not the kind that comes from tractors or delivery trucks. Nah. This was something bigger, louder, more arrogant. I stepped out onto the porch in my boxers, coffee in hand, and stared down the gravel drive. There it was. A big yellow Caterpillar D6 dozer crawling up the south pasture. Two men in hard hats. One had a radio. The other was holding a folded blueprint like it was the goddamn Declaration of Independence. Behind them, a silver SUV. Lexus. Of course. Karen stepped out in white sneakers and a fucking sun hat like she was planning a picnic. I didn't move. Just sipped my coffee. She waved. Morning, Mr. Rhodes. Today's the big day, I said nothing. She pointed toward the pasture. We're clearing the corridor for the community trail. You had your chance to participate. Trail's illegal, I said flatly. Paperwork's filed. She chirped. Zoning board approved it just yesterday. That got my attention. Because I'd just spoken to the zoning board the day before, and they told me no such permit had been granted. Show me the permit, I said. Karen smiled that smug HOA smile and held up a single sheet of paper. I walked right up, grabbed it, and read. And right there, in size 12 Calibri font, was the fakest goddamn permit I'd ever seen. Wrong seal, wrong date. And the signature typed to planning director, K. Morgan. She'd signed it herself. I looked her dead in the eyes. You forged a county document. She blinked. Unbothered. I made an executive decision. For the good of the community, you're trespassing. And that's not a trail corridor. That's my pasture. She smiled wider. Not anymore. Then the dozer moved. That bastard dropped its blade and started pushing right into the fence line metal on wood. Cracking. Grinding. Tearing up posts I'd sunk with my dad 15 years ago. A man yelled something over the radio. The second guy started rolling out flag markers right through my... That was it. No more warnings. I turned and walked back inside. Grabbed my phone. Pulled up the app. Damn. Came. Then I called Dan. And I called the sheriff. Then I walked to the barn. Opened the no. I wasn't going to shoot anyone, but I wanted them to know they'd just crossed the wrong fucking line. I walked back to the porch, fired the flare straight into the sky. A bright red streak hissed into the morning. The bulldozer stopped. Karen's smile dropped. And I stood there, arms crossed. 25 minutes later, 4 sheriff cruisers rolled up the gravel road. Kyle tried to run. Didn't get Karen, stayed put. Arms folded, fake permit fluttering in the wind like some goddamn surrender flag she didn't know she was holding. Sheriff Haynes stepped out of his truck with the slow, deliberate walk of a man who knows he's about to ruin someone's day. He walked up to me first. I'm fine, I said. My fence ain't... He nodded, turned to Karen. Executing a legally approved community project. She snapped. He held out his hand. Let me see the permit. She handed it over like it was a golden ticket. Haynes took one look and snorted. This is bullshit. Karen's mouth dropped open. It's valid. No, it ain't, Haynes growled. This seal's from the Parks and Rec Department, not the zoning board. And the guy you listed as supervisor retired 3 years ago? Karen sputtered. Well, you're under arrest, he said flatly. What? On what charges? Forgery? Trespassing? Destruction of private property? Impersonating a government official? He didn't even wait for backup. Just turned her around, cuffed her, and walked her to the cruiser like she was late for bingo. The dozer guys. They put their hands up fast, but one of them practically cried. Said he was hired through Craigslist. Said Karen told him it was community-approved land. They weren't charged, just told to get the fuck off my property and don't come back. Kyle. He was caught trying to sneak away on foot. Found hiding behind my woodpile like a fat raccoon in a stolen vest. Also cuffed. Also whining. I stood there watching them get hauled off. Didn't smile. Didn't gloat. Just sipped my coffee. Arms folded. Heart pounding like a bass drum in my chest. Because this time, it felt over. Really over. But it wasn't. Not yet. 2 hours later, Haynes called. Daniel, he said, you're going to want to come down to the station. Why we searched Karen's Lexus? Okay. There were files maps, deeds, copies of your property lines, and a printed email chain between her and a zoning clerk named Walters. Who's Walters, apparently? The guy she paid off to accelerate approvals. My throat went dry. You're saying she bribed a zoning official? Yep. And she wasn't just targeting you. She had plans. Expansion blueprints. 6 other parcels marked for correction. You were phase 1. Jesus. The next few days were a blur. News vans, phone calls, paperwork. Turns out Karen had been building a mini empire one fake permit at a time. A rogue HOA queen trying to carve out her own kingdom on the backs of old farmers and aging ranchers who didn't know what a zoning code even was. They'd been afraid to speak up. Hell, I almost was too. But not anymore. The county launched an investigation. The HOA board was dissolved. Karen was held without bail. Kyle sang like a bird and flipped on everyone. Even Walters, the zoning clerk, got caught with $2,000 in his glove box and a bag full of approved permits. And me, I rebuilt the fence. Again. Only this time, I didn't use cedar. I used steel. Painted black, embedded in concrete, and across the top rail, I welded a single phrase in 6-inch letters. Try me. That fall, Marlene came home. She baked an apple pie and cried when she saw the new fence. I held her, and for once it felt like peace. Not the silence before a storm. Real peace. The kind that smells like dry hay and wood smoke and pie crust. Karen Morgan. She pled guilty to forgery and bribery. 15 years, no parole. Kyle probation, banned from holding any HOA-related position for life. The HOA disbanded forever, and my land now officially marked in county records as non-rezoned, non-subject to community zoning intervention, with lifetime grandfather rights. They can't touch me again. Ever. Sometimes I still hear that dozer in my dreams. Sometimes I think about what would have happened if I hadn't come home early that day, if I'd stayed another night at the lake. Drank one more beer with the boys, but I did come home. I saw them. And I stopped them. Because this land, it's not a checkbox on a clipboard. It's not a line on a goddamn survey map. It's mine. So yeah, that's how it went down. A fake-ass permit. A bulldozer in my pasture. Cuffs, courtrooms, and one hell of a showdown. But more than anything, it was a reminder. If you own something land your name, your dignity, you better be ready to fight for it. Because there's always someone out there who thinks they can out-paperwork you, outsmart you, or straight up scare you off your own damn soil. And here's the truth. Folks, bullies don't stop until someone makes them. Whether they're waving a clipboard or hiding behind some HOA rulebook. Doesn't matter. If they think you're weak, they'll come for everything. So stand your ground. Record everything. Know your rights. And don't let a single inch of your life get bulldozed without a damn fight. If you've ever been through something like this, or you're living it right now, you ain't alone. This is the HOA Karen Files. We tell the real stories they don't want you to hear. Smash that subscribe button. Drop your own nightmare story in the comments. And if you're dealing with a Karen in khakis, you've got backup here. Until next time, stay loud, stay smart, and keep your goddamn gate locked.